Do you remember playing those old 8-bit games where you'd be the hero on the left side of the screen, running over on the right side of the screen, and as you run, more map gets created, and then you end up going through a dungeon, going through traps, and then finding the boss to get his treasure? Well, have you ever thought, how fun would it be to actually be the boss, set up the traps in the dungeon, and then try and kill the heroes, and prevent them from stealing your treasure? Well then, this is the game for you. Today I'm going to be reviewing Boss Monster, a card game about building dungeons, attracting heroes to your dungeons, and ultimately not dying. So in Boss Monster, you're going to first be handed your boss. So the boss cards will look something like this. The key piece of information to look for are the XP. Highest XP goes first. The level up ability. This is a one-time ability that your boss can take when you've built 5 rooms in your dungeon. And the treasure value, which I will mention soon. Next, you will get your hand that will consist of room cards and spell cards. So you'll get 5 room cards, 2 spell cards, and you discard 2 of any card you want. So your room cards will look something like this. So once again, the things that you want to look for are their ability. These are typically passive abilities, so they're constantly in effect, once per turn abilities, or when played. Some things you should look for is it a monster room or a trap room. Sometimes cards will reference monster rooms or trap rooms specifically. The treasure value on the card, and the damage. So this is an instance of the cleric room. There's also a fighter room. There are mage rooms. Sometimes the rooms will also have more than one symbol. For instance, this type of room shares the cleric and the thief symbol. And there are also advanced rooms. So advanced rooms have the advantage of being much stronger. They tend to have stronger abilities or deal more damage. However, an advanced room does have to be built on top of another room. When you build on your turn, you can actually build on top of a room if you like, but advanced rooms have to be built on top of rooms, and they have to meet the criteria of sharing the symbol in the bottom. So this has to be built on a room that has the thief treasure value. So spells will have one of 3 symbols on them. It'll have the hammer, indicating that this can only be used during the build phase of your turn, when you are building the rooms. The axe, which indicates that only can be used during the battle phase, which is when you're fighting off the heroes. And if it has both, it means it can be used whenever applicable. For instance, this spell can be used when someone else activates a spell. So heroes are another component of the game. So a hero card will look something like this. It'll show you number of people, which is for setup, the treasure value. The hero is after that type of treasure, so they'll go to whoever's dungeon has the most instances of this type of treasure. In the event of a tie, they will wait in town. There's also their health, the required amount of damage to kill them, and all heroes will have 1 wound, so if they make it through your dungeon, that dungeon takes 1 wound. If you get 5 wounds, you're eliminated from the game. There's also a soul. The icon that's a coin will be on the back of all the hero cards, and that'll indicate 1 soul. First 1 to 10 souls wins the game. So if you're either the last person alive or first person to 10 souls, you win. Heroes can have either 4 health, 6 health, 8 health, or in one special instance, you have the Fool, which has the unique ability of going to the player in last place, so whoever has the fewest number of souls. As you can see, the Fool has 2 health, so it's the easiest to kill. Once the hero deck has been run through completely, you then go into the Epic Hero deck. The Epic Hero get twice as many points for killing them, but you also take twice as many points for fighting them, and as you can see, they have a lot more health. They'll either have 11 health or 13. So they're much harder to kill, but they're worth a lot more, and they could kill you a lot faster. So the actual gameplay will look something like this. So at the start of my turn, I'll look at my hand, and right now we're in what's called the build phase. So you look at the cards in your hand, and you decide what to actually build if you want to build. For instance, this turn, I'm going to be building the recycling center. As I have 5 rooms in my dungeon already, I have to build on top of something. This is an advanced room, so I have to build on top of a room to build it anyway. As I'm building the recycling center, I have to build this on top of a room that shares the treasure value of Thief. So in this case, I'm going to build it over the Dragon Hatchery as it has all treasure values. So this is where I'm going to be building it. However, when I want to build something, I put it face down, because my opponent at the same time is going to be doing that to their dungeon as well. And then when we say ready, we will both simultaneously reveal, and then if either of us have an ability that activates immediately, we will then use it in order of player order. Here I see they built just a random room on top of their dungeon. It's not an advanced room, so it didn't need to go here. They just built it here because they felt that it worked better with what their dungeon has. Now what we do is we go into the assignment phase. This is where we take the heroes in town, starting from the left, and assign them to the beginning of people's dungeons based off of the treasure value. For instance, this was left here from last turn because we were previously tied for the mage. We both had 2. However, now we both have 1, so it will remain here. So neither player will take it. For the thief, I have 2 thief icons. My opponent has none. I will take the thief. And I have 1 cleric. My opponent has none, so I will take the cleric. Now that that has been done, we now go through the dungeons in player order, fighting off the heroes from the first assigned to the last assigned. This is where your opponent or you can use any spells as you see fit, or any applicable room abilities. In this case, I'm not going to do anything because this hero will die in this room, and this hero will die in this room. They get flipped over and put into a point pile for me, and I get points based off of how many I have. I need 10 to win, as I mentioned earlier. Then we would go to the next player in the player order, which is my opponent, who has no heroes in their dungeon. So now we go into the end of the turn. So first we assign new heroes to the town. So 2 heroes enter town because we're playing a 2-player game. You assign 1 hero per player for the game. So at the start of the game, if you start with 2 people, you get 2 heroes assigned at the end of each round. Next, each player draws 1 card from the top of the deck in order of your XP count, so always go by that player order. And then you go on to the next round. It is important to note that aside from the very start of the game and card abilities, there is no time in the game where you draw from the spell deck. So you should use your spells wisely, or build a strategy around spells if you know that you're going to be using them. I really do enjoy this game. It's very fun. It's one of those games where I feel like I'm explaining a lot really early on. However, after the first turn, everyone seems to get it. The great thing about it is there's no heroes in town on the first turn, so you get a little bit of time to build up your dungeon, and the fact that you get to mulligan 2 cards right off the bat gives you a lot of variability with your strategy. The only problem is when you just started the game for your first time ever, you don't really know what cards are good yet. However, it does help to know a couple of things. Fighters tend to be mostly monster rooms and deal a lot of damage. In fact, in this game, I believe all the fighter rooms are monster rooms. So the mage treasure value, they tend to be more spell-oriented, a little bit lower damage, but they actually let you draw cards from the spell deck, which is nice, and let you do more stuff with spells. The thief tends to be very high risk, high reward. You usually will have to do things like destroying a lot of cards to actually use them, but when you do, they will outpower even the fighters. And lastly, the clerics, they tend to be more interactive, so they will interact more with your players, or the discard piles, letting you draw from the discard pile, steal cards from players, and do really interesting things like that, and they're kind of medium on damage. So it helps to have a good build of 2 different types, so you can attract heroes to your dungeon, but also maintain a balance of power and maintain a balance of strategy. Since right here my opponent has a ridiculously powerful strategy going, however the thing is, unless they get fighters, they're pretty much not getting anything. There's a bunch of different strategies you could do, however, one thing I kind of don't like about it is the fact that it's mostly chance. If you don't get the cards that you want, you kind of can't do that strategy. But it is nice because it forces you to try out different strategies, which is something I really enjoy. I think the game has a lot of replayability. Some of your friends will love playing it a lot more than others, so it does depend on who you're playing it with. If you do get one of the expansions, there are expansions that add items which enhance the heroes, make them stronger, and even give you more things for player interaction, abilities that you could do with it. So I really do encourage that because it really adds some key aspects to the game. It stops becoming about who's going to win first and can I even survive long enough to win. So that's my video on Boss Monster. It's a quite lovely, simple game. I love the artwork on it. It's really nice and reminds me of all those old school games I used to play. I hope you enjoyed this video too. Let me know in the comment section below. Like and subscribe, and have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya.